73 years ago, a sleepy little central New York town held its first Grand Prix around a true street circuit. And in 1961, its new purpose-built circuit became the first permanent home of the United States Formula One Grand Prix. A circuit known as much for its speed as for its blue Armco that still rings the track, much as it did when our drivers' heroes like Mario Andretti, Jackie Stewart, and Francois Servet sought the ultimate pace and in some cases paid the ultimate price. Tonight, we travel to the mecca of North American road racing, 3.4 miles of power and fury for a 60-minute sprint to the checkered flag. Welcome to Watkins, Glen International and Round 7 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sportscar Series presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics, right here on Apex Racing TV. With Larry McLeod joining me in the announce booth and Apex Racing TV's Alex Simpson and Dennis Branch manning the controls, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and tonight our GT and TCR combatants pick right up where they left off 3 weeks ago at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. There we saw our 2 points leaders cement their advantages, taking their 4th wins of the season respectively, Larry. But with two rounds remaining, there's still a lot here on the line at Watkins Glen.
There sure is. We are definitely in that home stretch here in this round 7. But those in front have definitely got a big advantage coming into this round. And they've shown their pace all year long. I'd be surprised if anybody can really take them down. But there's a few competitors there that are looking to try and score some points because there's a few points battles outside the leads that are still open in both classes.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we'll get to we'll run things down and get to that point, those points battles here in just a few moments. But we are talking about Elvis Rankin, who currently leads the GT4 field in his Porsche Cayman and in TCR. Eric Violet, both drivers took their 4th wins out of 6 rounds 3 weeks ago at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in fairly commanding fashion. And as Larry mentioned, there are some very tight battles throughout the rest of the field here that we may see some things really play out here at Watkins Glen before we move on to the 8th and final round of the championship in just about 3 weeks at Road Atlanta. So, Larry, as we start to walk through here and take a look at the track here, why don't we take a quick look, and why don't we start things off, I know it's a little bit early in the broadcast, but why don't we start things off by going over to Kevin Ford and taking a look at this 3.4 mile 11-turn Watkins Glen International course.
Welcome, everyone, to Watkins Glen International, located here in Watkins Glen, New York. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today around this beautiful 3.4-mile road course. The track became a permanent circuit all the way back in 1956 and has hosted some of the most memorable moments in motorsports history since. Well, let's get ready to provide you your track guide as we head up the front straightaway here. On the left, you'll see the main grandstands area. To the right, the pit area. As we come up across that flagman stand here, heading down this very fast entry into what's known as the elbow, turn 1. Very tough corner to get right here. As we come up off the exit, we're going to use as much of that track surface as possible to get a good run up this very long stretch here through the S's and up onto the back straightaway. Seems like a simple section here through these S's, but it's speed with cars around you. It's very narrow through that section. As we come out onto the back stretch, take a little curve there, heading down into what's known as the bus stop or the inner loop here at Watkins Glen. Very tough, a lot of undulation through this section. Can really get that car loose on you. Coming down into turn 5 here, the carousel, or the outer loop as they refer to it. Very fast exit down into a difficult, long, sweeping left-hander. It is slightly banked, which helps. You can get the throttle pretty early there at apex, let the car track out, and head down the chute here into what's known as the toe, or the toe of the boot. The boot being this section of the course that from an aerial view actually looks like a boot. Up out of 7, we're going to head down to the heel, turn 8. A lot of overtaking happens right here on this entry. That car rolling right down to apex, come back to throttle on exit, and head up the hill here for the return to the cup section of the course. This is very tough here. A lot of off-camber section. Back end wants to get loose, gets light right there, as you can see. And then coming up into my favorite section, turn 10 on the course. Bit of a banked entry and a banked exit. Get some good speed down into this final turn of turn 11. So you can come up onto the front straightaway and take advantage of the slipstream here as you head back down to turn 1. There you go. There's your track guide for beautiful Watkins Glen here in New York. Thank you for being with us.
All right, and thank you, Kevin Ford, for that lap around beautiful, historic Watkins Glen International. So, Larry, you know, while we were watching Kevin take that lap in his BMW around Watkins Glen, we were talking about pretty much our love for this racetrack and how great it is to race. You've raced it quite a bit in iRacing. I've raced it quite a bit in real life. And, you know, it's a track, you know, you think about it as like a you know, as a NASCAR track, but it's got this character to it. You know, there are so many ways to make speed around this course. And it's really built for speed, you know, with so many cambered corners. And as you were mentioning, you know, it's got all of these little, basically grooves, to you know, that if you can fit the car into the groove, that it pretty much just, I don't want to say pushes you to a fast lap here, but it really is a special layout.
It totally does. It pulls you is really what it did. And the ones I'm thinking of are just turn 1. If you hit that braking point at turn at 1, you can be on the gas, you know, probably 20 feet before the apex and powering through, and you don't need to run wide, you know, on the spec Miata line all the way out there in the runoff, because the track just pulls you into this beautiful groove, and then you've got all that wide open throttle up the S's down to the bus stop again. There's a groove to it. There's a moment where you just get that turn in right, you flick the car right, flick the car left, and then you're back out towards the carousel at the far end. It's just, and the same, you get around that big sweeper at the far end, and you're riding, almost straddling that curbing all the way down the inside. I love the way this track, it's got just enough elevation. The grooves pull you around. There's little spots where if you pitch the car just right, the track just is so rewarding for it. And frankly, it races pretty well too. It's not the easiest place to pass, but it does reward you if you get a great run off of 1 going into bus stop, or if you can get a great pull through the toe of the boot as you head to the heel, you can make passes going down there as well. And I love the way you can race side by side with somebody for 3/4 of a lap, you know, with 2 equal drivers. And it really is fantastic racing. And just from a picturesque, it's sort of a setting here in upstate New York. So you can see it in some of these shots, just the rolling hills in the background. It is just classic racing in its purest form.
It certainly is. And as I mentioned in the open, of course, Watkins Glen built after Watkins Glen, pretty much the early home of road racing in the United States, as there were Grand Prix run through the streets of the small town, and it was actually about a 6.5 mile course to start off with, and then drop down to 4.6 miles as even in the 50s the drivers and the townsfolk realized that you know, maybe parts of this course aren't the safest thing out there for our drivers. And then of course that begat Watkins Glen International, and in its various forms. Of course, it's been relatively the same since 1971, when they added the boot section onto the track. But you know, it just has so much character, and like some of the greatest road race courses here in North America, just very few changes other than, you know, additions of safety equipment. And I'm thinking, you know, I think obviously of like a Road America that hasn't really changed it at all since 1955. But Larry, let's take a look, as we have our drivers now out on course for their 15-minute, what we call lone qualifying. Basically, it appears as though the drivers have the course all to themselves, all to themselves, as they go out to set a fast lap. They get 4 laps around this Watkins Glen International course in order to set that fast lap, and in order to set the grid. But why don't we? Because we talked about it a little bit at the open. Let's take a look at how things finished up 3 weeks ago at the Mid-Ohio Sportscar course, and where we stand now, 6 rounds completed of an 8-round season here in the Ricmotech Sportscar Series. So let's start off with GT4, where Elvis Rankin and his Apex Racing team came in, took the win, his 4th win out of 6 so far. Extended his point lead now to just about, I believe, 15 points over Mike Dam from Orion Racing. But Dam didn't have the greatest of races at Mid-Ohio. Ended up finishing back in 5th. So off the podium there, Tony Kernan in his Porsche Cayman finished 2nd in the Kernan Motorsports car. And then we had the 3 McLarens. We had Orion Racing's Travis Schwenke. Then we had his teammate, Robert Hartley. And then Mike Dam also in the McLaren, rounding out the top 5. And if we take a look at the points in GT4, as we mentioned, Elvis Rankin sitting atop the order with a 15-point advantage over Mike Dam. It is then 8 points back to Tony Kernan. And then a little bit of a ways back to Schwenke and then Hartley, who are only 9 points apart. And I think we're going to be talking to Travis Schwenke in just a few moments when qualifying wraps up, just before we send the drivers to the grid. But there you go. We've got the GT4 points battle there out on the screen for you. After Schwenke and Hartley, we've got Jeff Jacobs with the widest car in motorsports, Chris Thorman, Russ Ruddick, David Payton, and Randall McGrew rounding out the top 10. If we go over and take a look at TCR, and we are following right now Brandon Whitworth in the number 42 car. Now, Brandon is sitting, he is currently sitting 2nd in the points total here. His teammate from D2D iRacing, Eric Violet, who took the win 3 weeks ago at Mid-Ohio Sportscar course, leads the championship right now. Difference is, I believe, 16 points between those 2 drivers. And then we've got our 3rd entry from D2D iRacing, Andrew List, sitting 3rd in the championship right now. He has 158 points. Scott Brooks in the Brooks Racing machine out of Canada, he is sitting down at 142 points. And then we've got John Allen, is currently sitting 5th in the points with Andre Saunders. And we'll talk about Andre Saunders in a moment here, because he put in a great practice here. I believe he had the fastest times in practice. And for the moment, I believe Larry is also our fastest driver currently in TCR qualifying. He finished, as I mentioned, he finished 2nd at Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, and currently sitting 6th in the championship.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of coming on late here with that podium finish 3 weeks ago. And as you mentioned, he's been quick here in practice and already so far quickest in qualifying, just outside the 2-minute range around here. So he certainly could be one to contend with. Somebody that Whitworth and Violet and List are going to have to look out for, is those guys normally battle with between the 3 teammates there. But I think Saunders tonight's going to be a bit of a hurdle for them to get by. It could make a great 4-pack, or even if Brooks can get in there, a good 5-pack of TCRs buzzing around here.
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. All right, so if we take a look at qualifying right now, and we are now just about 10 minutes into this 15-minute qualifying session. Sitting atop the leaderboard right now in GT4, driving his McLaren, the number 93 machine, is Mike Dam. We've got Robert Hartley also in the McLaren, currently running 2nd fastest. He is, I believe, about 14 hundredths of a second off Mike Dam's times currently, and we're following on track right now our points leader. That is Elvis Rankin. He is currently sitting 3rd fastest, but you can see, Larry, all these drivers are very closely matched right now, with Hartley about 12 hundredths up on Rankin, Dam about 28 hundredths up on Rankin here, and then Travis Schwenke currently 4th fastest in the McLaren, and then a whole boatload of Porsche Caymans, Thorman, Kernan, Randall McGrew, David Payton, Jeff Jacobs, and Russ Ruddick rounds out our 10-car field. Ruddick in the sole BMW racing.
As Rankin goes to the top, I was kind of watching his sectors there. It's that one overall fastest sector, a couple of personal bests, to now be just 36 thousandths ahead of Mike Dam. Dam's just finishing his 3rd lap right now, so we'll see if he's able to rebound and sort of come back at him with that one. I don't see any improvement there for him. He's going to have to get it done there on his 4th lap, which he just started. So it's going to be tight to the front. You can see there's 2/10 separating your top 3. And I think these guys are getting used to that McLaren now throughout the season.
Yes.
As the new vehicle. I think they're really finding its speed.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the McLaren came in, about 3 rounds into the season here, was added to the iRacing platform, and the folks from, I guess, from Orion, moved over to those cars. And, they struggled a little bit for the first 2 rounds or so, Larry, but definitely looks like at a track like this that really
that's going to hurt him
focuses on speed. Yeah, that certainly isn't going to help him. That really focuses on speed. Here, the McLarens certainly seem to have a bit of an advantage out here.
Yeah, I think that when they first hit one of the first rounds that we covered with them in this series, I think it was at Belle Isle.
Yeah.
And I don't think the McLaren liked Belle Isle in any way, shape, or form, let alone being the first week these guys had a chance to drive it. But as these rounds have gone on and you get to a track like here at Watkins Glen where there's plenty of places for that McLaren to really stretch his legs and plenty of high-speed corners really being the key, that maybe perhaps it struggles on the low-speed stuff, where here there are no real low-speed. The slowest corner is the one you're seeing on screen right now. That is the slowest corner on this entire circuit. Everything else is going to be probably third gear and up in pretty much any car, which perhaps may be playing into the McLaren being in the mix here with the Porsches. As Mike Dam looks like his last lap was not any quicker. And
No.
Hartley's done. Travis Schwenke's done. Randall McGrew is done, as well as a few others. I think Tony Kernan might be the only one left in that GT4 group, still with a
Yeah,
lap.
and it looks like Kernan is currently on his 3rd flying lap. He's got one more after that. Now, as far also, Larry, as far as performance of the Caymans versus the McLarens. Now, we do here in the Ricmotech different Ricmotech series do assign balance of performance adjustments to different cars based on the track and based on previous performance. And here at Watkins Glen, we have added a little bit of weight to the Caymans, added 33 pounds and a very small reduction in horsepower, 1%. So not a huge change there, but that also again can affect how these drivers do on course. Of course, the obvious reason for balance of performance is just to do that, to balance things out and hopefully move all the platforms to be fairly equal and give them very similar lap times here around Watkins Glen. And so we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, the other thing is we have qualifying rounding down here, and we have just 5 TCR cars in the field. And I believe we were watching Eric Violet a little earlier. Currently, Andre Saunders is your fastest car on track with a lap time of a fast lap of a 2:35. And talk about consistent. His final lap was only his final lap was only 0.06 of a second off of that. Brandon Whitworth at a 2:40. So 0.05 of a second separating them. Eric Violet, who we just mentioned, at a 2:51. So, just a 10th off of there. So very close in qualifying. And, it's going to be a big challenge for the TCR cars, I think, here tonight, Larry. That given all of the high speed corners here at Watkins Glen, the one place that I see probably, a good passing opportunity is right here, actually, as we watch Tony Kernan pull up just before the bus stop. Here we go. As Eric Violet now.
He just finished his last lap for his qualifying. Now he's just kind of coasting down. But you can see he did put his quickest lap in, not quite enough to get on the front row there. But look at the 3 of them, just over a 10th separating their top 3. And with Andrew List, just another half a second back from there. So it is going to be extremely tight there in the TCR pack. But Andre Saunders showing he's the late season surge here, getting the podium last time out. Maybe he's going to try and back that up here. Maybe even try to take these other more seasoned veterans down. This would be a great one to watch there at TCR.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as I was saying, the racing is going to be very tight in these obviously identically prepared cars here. And it's going to be I think passing is going to be at a premium here at Watkins Glen with that bus stop chicane, the inner loop, probably being the key place to watch for passing in TCR. And we'll watch as that race plays out, because a lot of those drivers are going to have, I think, some tire challenges probably as well throughout the day. All right, so Larry, I'm looking, because we're supposed to bring in Travis Schwenke here to
That's what going to happen. Is
But
I
I'm
think
having
he's
to run
now
it
on
at
the grid.
10:18.
yeah, that's going to be a little difficult. So,
14:40.
Larry, why don't we run down the starting grid here for our round number 7 of the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics?
All right, so up at the top, Elvis Rankin on pole, the Apex Racing team. He'll lead the way with Mike Dam, former teammate, now with the Orion Racing, of course. Mike Dam there, and Elvis at the Apex Racing. Mike Dam just 36,000 of a second off that pole time. Second row is going to be Robert Hartley in the Orion team. He'll be alongside teammate Travis Schwenke there on row 2. On row 3, Randall McGrew from the Genesis SimSport team. He'll be lined up against the D2D eRacing's Chris Thorman. They're both going to be driving a couple of Porsches there. The row 4, we've got Tony Kernan, and he'll be alongside D2D eRacing's David Payton. On row 5, Jeff Jacobs, and he'll be lined up with Russ Ruddock in the Flying Tortoise Motorsports entry. And that is your GT4 field as we moved over to the TCRs. We're on the poles we mentioned. Andre Saunders leading the way in the Pocket Racing outfit, and he's got a pack of D2D eRacings behind him. Alongside is going to be Brandon Whitworth, but just behind the pole is going to be Eric Violet on row 2, and on the outside of row 2, Andrew List. And then in the 5th spot in the TCR, Scott Brooks in the Brooks Racing entry. And that's your field, not the biggest field, but I think we're going to have some really good racing here between both of these classes.
Yeah, I think it should be some great racing here, Larry. Of course, we'll want to watch on the start here, see what Eric Violet does starting from that 3rd position in TCR. Again, he has won 4 of the 6 rounds, is coming off a win at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. As the pace car now starts to roll off.
Not exactly a short pace lap as we were anticipating. I think Watkins Glen only has one variety.
Well, there you go. So 3.4 miles from now, we will be taking the green flag as we've got that Ford Mustang pace car leading Elvis Rankin and the rest of the field around. Now, Larry, this is a 60-minute sprint race, and we would anticipate, as with most events here on the sports car series, that these drivers will need to take at least a single pit stop. Given the length of the race, I think just a single pit stop will probably be all that they need. And as always, the question becomes whether or not some of these drivers will take, whether they'll take tires or whether they won't take tires, and how long they spend on the pit lane, and see if they can undercut drivers here. And I think in TCR that might be critically important.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's when you take your stop is going to be critical. I think too early usually will get you into traffic, but again, we're fairly light tonight, so I don't know how much traffic we're going to really have to worry about too much.
Yeah.
So maybe an early stop might not be a bad idea. This might be one of those rounds where you could tolerate that and make your way through the traffic, But the normal strategy is go until you're dry and then splash and go and get out of there for the finish. But it's all going to be about that timing, and are you working well with somebody, or are you being held up? Can you save a little fuel? Can you not? I think we're going to see some of that, but I think we're going to find some folks able to excel at that pit stop strategy are the ones that are going to probably make big jumps and be there at the end.
All right, and we're watching right now as Andre Saunders, who's our pole sitter in the number 72 Audi RS3 LMS, makes his way around the outer loop, and you'll see here that the TCR cars, our 5-car field, separating themselves out just a little bit from the GT4 battle. They will take the green separately, we shall say, to encourage some great racing in each one of these different fields before they get all mixed up here partway through this 60-minute race.
Yeah, and I think it'll be several laps before the front of the GT4s catches the back of the TCRs, because the TCR pack is a pretty tightly paced group, so won't see a lot of intermixing for at least the first probably 15 minutes, which is going to be great. Give a chance for these guys to really get stretched out, get the pace going, and see if anybody can make up a little bit of ground from their qualifying positions. As usual, I usually want to keep an eye out for guys like Tony Fernando, who tends to be more of a late race charger, see if he can move up from the GT4 field. And then Andrew List being back there on that road too, could play the patient game, being the points leader, but at some point patience is boring. He may want to make a race out of it.
Well, and we've seen where McGrew happens to be in the GT4 field, happens to be pretty aggressive usually in the first couple laps of the race, and so we'll see what he tries to do there from the outside of row number 3, as the pace car now bringing the field through the final corner here, turn 11 at Watkins Glen
Let's see if
International.
Mike Dam can push on the opening run down to turn 1. Elvis Rankin to the inside, get a better run. Might be a good shot to take the early lead. We'll see if he gets a jump.
All right, and Rankin accelerates now. And there we go. We've got the green flag as our GT4 field starts to make its way down turn 1. And Larry, there you go. Elvis Rankin cuts right across the nose of Mike Dam, holds off that charge. They go into the 90 turn 1 here at Watkins Glen for the very first time with Hartley, Schwenke, and then McGrew back in
no, we got
fourth and
contact
fifth.
in the back. But he
Yeah.
survives.
Oh.
That looked like
and
Schwenke.
off the wall, going and hitting the wall. That is Travis Schwenke and Tony Kernan getting together, going up through the S's as our our TCR cars take the green flag, and we'll have to see as they come up the hill if that incident is still there. But jumping to an early lead, Andrew List gets around Andre Saunders. Violet sitting in third, Whitworth and Brooks as they make their way up through the S's onto the back straight here at Watkins Glen and make their way down towards the bus stop. And we'll see here now if Violet decides to hold station back behind Saunders. He does, as our cars go all in a line here, coming out through the bus stop and then through the outer loop to make their way to the
quick
booth. Let's go
replay
take
here.
a look at this replay.
Yeah, you see Travis coming in, looks a little bit of contact there with McGrew, and then gets right in front of Tony Kernan, and both of them spin out going through those upper S's. These cold tires, these cars are just treacherous and cold tires, and when you start a little bit of contact, it continues and you just can't gain that back. And unfortunately for Tony Kernan, he gets kind of caught up in the sliding car of Schwenke there. So as we noted, the start is now under review by the stewards, so we'll see if there's any penalties to be given out for that. But meanwhile, the top 3, as expected, is pulling away with Rankin and Dam and Hartley for the first time coming around through 10 to 11.
And as they come onto the front straight to complete lap number 1, Elvis Rankin, your leader, Mike Dam, Hartley running in third, and they've opened up now, primarily due to that incident, a pretty good advantage over our 4th and 5th place runners, Chris Thorman and Randall McGrew. So McGrew started 5th, he ended up in 5th, but Thorman made up a couple positions on that start, moves up from 6th to 4th with the loss of those 2 cars now.
And then back here in the TCRs, the one getting the great start, the strategy I was thinking Mike Dam would try to use on Elvis Rankin, actually the TCRs worked for List to get around Saunders, kind of push Saunders to the inside, was able to make that great run and get on the gas early to go around turn 1 on that first lap. He was able to take that early lead, but as we typically have with those TCRs, it's pack racing for most of the day, which makes it exciting.
And we got a good little pack here at the front of our GT4 field, as Elvis Rankin in the Apex Racing Porsche Cayman has an advantage over the 2 McLarens right now of Mike Dam and Hartley as they make their way through the chute down towards the toe of the boot. And you can see here at Watkins Glen how all these corners, the majority of these corners, very heavily cambered, great groove there that if you can just drop in, it'll just, again, pull you on up the hill. And even as they come down and make the run down the sole of the boot over to the heel here over at turn 8, same thing, a little bit of camber there to just drag you right on around. And it's not until you come up to the exit of the boot right over here at turn 9 where things change drastically and you actually have to go off camber and have that wall just inches from you right there.
Elvis seemed to be pretty quick there through that boot section, gained a couple of tenths because they went in through that turn 5 downhill, and he was only about 3 or 4 tenths. Now he's opened this up to about 6, but I think wonder here as we get around this faster stuff coming off of 11 on the front straight, if maybe the McLaren kind of comes into its own to close that gap back up by the time they reach the bus stop. So let's keep our eye on that. Also to note, you saw the graphic on the screen there, the incident there between McGrew and Schwenke. No further action taken. So yeah, those guys are going to continue that way. But looking here, though, look at Andrew List now pulling out a bit of an advantage, and Saunders back to third as Violet, your point lead, they're able to get on by. So a little bit of a mix-up there as they sort of shake-up, I should say. But it looks like List now, because the shake-up behind him, is able to pull a bit of a gap. The guy behind him can work together to close that gap.
Yeah, they may be able to close it down just a little bit here as long as they can move back into our leader, Andrew List's draft. But yeah, a little
that's
surprising to see them
yeah.
separate out that much this early on in the race, Larry.
Well, I mentioned about the possibility of McLaren's faster in the fast sections, and there you go. It's down to 2.5 tenths as they come out of the bus stop, and now down into the boot section here. And you can see he's right up on the tail of it. But watch Elvis as he goes through here at the toe of the boot, takes a great cut line, rides it in a little bit wide there for Graham on the entry, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I like to stay tight all the way through there. But look at it, already up to almost a half a second, closing a little bit here on the short straight. But as they go here through the heel of the boot and then up to turn 9, you'll watch that little Porsche came and just grab a little bit more gap between them. That seems to be how it goes. Porsche stronger in the tighter corners, McLaren probably in the faster corners and the long stretches.
All right, getting word that Scott Brooks, our fifth place runner in TCR, had a little bit of an off. You can see now he's dropped a little bit off the rest of the TCR field. Let's take a look at a replay here. And it looks like this was coming down to the bus stop, Larry.
Yep. Bus stop, you catch a curb like that, a little bit of grass there, kind of pushes him wide there on the second part of it. But able to continue, that's pretty good. Yeah. These TCRs are really easy to recover. Just the front drive, just stick your foot in it and steer. Loses time, but at least you don't smack into a guardrail anywhere. Lots of Armco around Watkins Glen to hit if you're not careful.
Yeah, I would know it very, very well. I've had my share, Larry. Yeah. All right.
You've given it the sacrifice of the blue Armco, have you?
Yes. Unfortunately, one too many times. All right, so we were watching for a moment our battle for fourth, but jump it back to the lead where we've got Elvis Rankin and Mike Dam, and they separate themselves out just a little bit from Hartley. And you can see here as they just hop over all of those curbs. Really great running here through the bus stop and then through the outer loop, and dropping off just a little bit Robert Hartley in the number 3 machine, but still certainly within striking distance as they roll down in the boot, Larry.
These GT4 cars are not always the best drafting. Everything drafts a little bit, right?
Right.
But the speed going into the bus stop is tremendous improvement, a tremendous advantage for that McLaren of Mike Dam. Amazing how fast he was catching him, to the point where I almost wonder if he's in closing stages of the race, if he's ahead of the Cayman. It's going to be really hard for Elvis or any of the Caymans to get around that McLaren because of its straightaway speed. One of the best places to pass here normally is going into that bus stop, and if you can't outgun them, it's going to be really tough to make that pass. So Mike Dam, stay close, maybe try and make the swap in the pits, or if you can get some other way to get on by. But I think come the closing stages of the race, I think having to be in front in a McLaren would be the way to go if I had my choice.
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. All right, so as they make their way down into the toe of the boot here, watching the battle for second in TCR, and things are tightening up there, and I think
it's about to get really tight.
Yeah, it looks like both Saunders, currently sitting in third, and also Brandon Whitworth might be looking for a way to get around Eric Violet in the number 89 machine.
They're all about to get around Andrew List, as he's going to be penalized for jumping the starts, which would explain how well he was able to get around our pole sitter, Andre Saunders. So for List, we'll see how that's going to be paid, if it's going to be a drive-through here shortly. But if it is, that's going to be tough. That's going to probably drop him back about 15 seconds or so if it's a drive-through, because that's a tough one to do. So right now he's going to try and put the hammer down, trying to gain a couple of seconds before having to come in and serve that penalty, which he's going to do right now.
And he's going to serve it now. So he comes into the pit lane, and we'll have to see. And he comes to a stop. And we'll have to see how long before he continues on.
Unless he thinks he can make it to the end on fuel, because we're just over 8 minutes in. It's a long way to go.
And I was going to say, Larry, judging by how these drivers and how far these TCR cars can make it, we think that they can do probably around 21 laps or so on a full tank. And that would put him probably a bit short.
It would. That's only going to get him
about 5 laps.
About 43 to 45 minutes. But yeah, he's going to fall a few minutes short of our 60 total. Yeah. But so I'm interested to see when he comes out what's his pace look like. The other thing he could have been doing is just taking a quick set of front tires, so he's got better pace for this interim stop. As long as you're going to come in and take a 15-second penalty, what's another 10 to take some fresh tires?
Right. Yeah, and Larry, it looks like he spent probably, and with the penalty, just a touch over 40 seconds in the pits. So I suspect that he probably did take the tires as well. And that kind of gets to well, I'll tell you what, let's watch our GT4 drivers here. And when we get back to the TCR, we'll talk a little bit about tire strategy and race strategy here.
The other interesting thing to me, though, is normally in a penalty situation, you're not allowed to service the car.
That would be my impression.
So I'll be really curious if there's anything, if that's a rule. We'll check that probably in the rules here in the Ricmotech series. But yeah, most racing series, if you're issued a drive-through penalty, unless it was a stop and go, but if you're issued a drive-through, normally a stop and go, you cannot do any sort of servicing on that vehicle.
Yeah, looks like, and we'll have to watch here, but
he's not back on the track.
Yeah, he's from the looks of it, the counter isn't up. I'm thinking he may have checked out, Larry.
Huh. That's interesting. Very, very interesting, which is going to help Eric Violet's chances, of course, in the overall points, to consider where he's at to be able to get another strong finish here. It's going to make him tough to reach going into the final round if he's able to get, at this point, no worse than 4th place points.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the list going into the evening was 15 points back from Brandon Whitworth, so would have had a pretty tough battle to fight his way up to 2nd in the points, but certainly not doing himself any favors this evening. By
we got a good shot here of Russ Ruddock coming up on Jeff Jacobs in this battle here for 7th, I believe this is, in the GT4. The only BMW out there is Russ Ruddock, still flying the old BMW flag, but he's going to be putting right on the tails there. He's got pretty good legs to keep up with that Cayman. We know that McLaren's got stronger legs. We'll see if the BMW also, when you get to the long straight sections down the front straight and then of course the back straight, see if he can make up any ground going to the bus stop on Jeff Jacobs. But as we say every week, Jeff Jacobs is always one of the toughest passes in the field.
Yeah. Certainly the widest Cayman, I think, here this evening. All right, coming out of the final corner, out of turn 11 onto the front straight to complete lap number 6. Elvis Rankin now starting to stretch things out just a little bit on the 2 McLarens on Mike Dam and Robert Hartley.
Yeah, Dam lost a little bit of ground there. I know he makes it up a little bit here in this section as they go up the S's and down towards the bus stop. But he's got Hartley now right on his tail, and Hartley put in a great lap just before this. So I don't know if the Orion teammates are thinking about a swap here, as that's not a good sign, as that's Thorman.
That's Thorman in the 60 machine. Yeah, let's take a look at a replay here as they come down the front straight.
I'm guessing apex curbing is not his friend coming here into 1.
And there you go, and the car gets loose, and around he goes. And that moves Randall McGrew now up into 4th. David Payton, who's made up 3 positions since the start of this race, he is now currently running 5th.
Yeah, these are your old school, tall, rough, and not very friendly curbs. And you go into that turn 1, and it kind of almost high centers the car. And it looks like that's exactly what happened to him in his Cayman.
All right, so now what we have is 3 of our 4 cars in TCR battling it out for the lead. Our current leader is now Eric Violet in the number 89 machine. Then we've got Andre Saunders, our pole sitter, in the 72, sandwiched between Violet and his teammate Brandon Whitworth in the D2D iRacing machines. And so, Larry, this is, as we watch this TCR battle, this is the thing that really interests me. Given the aero package on these cars, I would think that with the wide open and very sweeping corners that make up the majority of corners here at Watkins Glen, that these drivers probably after a while might be dealing, if they keep very close in the draft like they normally do, might end up dealing with a bit of a push in the car. It might end up running off those front tires maybe a little bit sooner than they expected.
In fact, some of our drivers in our interviews throughout the course of this couple seasons here now have said that exact thing. If you get too close, you follow behind, you end up putting a lot of wear on those front tires, and it's very tough to get that aero around and to really make the car efficient. So extra tire wear is not what you want around here for sure, because it makes those high-speed corners very slippery. But right now, it's looking like Saunders wants to get the lead back. He's being very racy on this lap, able to close right up on Violet. And in fact, it even looked there, it went from the toe to the heel of the boot, like he might have tried to move down the inside, but he backs off, maybe going to try it somewhere else. But Saunders right now looking very good here as we approach the quarter way through the race.
Yeah, and you can see on the brakes a little bit softer coming through turn 11 onto the front straight. He's carrying more speed through a good portion of the corners here than our leader, Eric Violet. and he just keeps poking to the inside, taking a little look, and I think just kind of letting Violet know that he's there.
Yep, he's got a very good line through one, although he might have overbroke just a little bit because now he's got Whitworth on his tail, can either push him or try and make a move around him. Whitworth would love to make this a D2D iRacing 1-2 at this point of the race. He's going to have to make a dive bomb going into the bus stop. He's going to do it. He's definitely got the momentum.
And you can see they pull out to the inside, and there for just a moment there, we thought maybe Whitworth would follow Saunders through to try and push underneath our leader. Eric Violet does not do it. He gets back behind his teammate, and that pretty much calls things off.
Yep, a bad bus stop for Saunders has let Whitworth slip on the inside coming out as they round their way down the sweeper down towards the boot. A great opportunity there for Whitworth, jumping on it, seeing Saunders sliding wide.
There you go. So move Andre Saunders. Now here, let's take a look at the, well, we'll jump back to our leaders because I think we've had a change in our second and third place runners here. Let's take a look.
Outbroke himself.
Yeah, going into the gravel trap over at the heel of the boot. That was Mike Dam in the number 93 machine, and he loses a lot of ground, Larry, a lot of ground to Hartley and Rankin.
He definitely has. And, you know, we've seen that out of him lately, is he's got some fantastic speed, but there's been a couple of races where one little off costs him a couple of spots. He's able to survive the first 15 minutes of this race or so. But Mike Dam kind of struggling for a moment or two here, and kind of has to gather himself and figure this out. Luckily, that one didn't cost him too much, still able to be on the third place spot. But we've seen that a couple times this season, and probably something he's going to have to work on is kind of watching those big mistakes, because those will cost you more than anything.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Mike Dam can go and separate himself back out from Randall McGrew there in the Van Halen guitar Porsche Cayman, and you can see McGrew's already dropped off just a little bit from that McLaren of Dam. He was, I think at the time that Dam went off and rejoined, probably around 0.8 of a second back, and it looks like Dam has been able to almost double that here in the course of just about one lap.
He's got ultimate speed when he can lay it down. Just got to watch those mistakes, and maybe he just one of those got underneath too far and lost the front end of braking, but he's now got an open track to try and pull away a little bit, but being 6 more seconds down is not going to help his cause.
All right, as we jump back to the battle for the lead in GT4, Elvis Rankin and Robert Hartley.
As we're watching Hartley coming off and just rubbing the wall there down the front straight. The car doesn't stick at that apex. You really want to scare that wall, but you don't want to hurt the wall. And that time you got a little bit of pain between the bodywork and that wall.
And in the last couple of years, since I think this was scanned, Watkins Glen has done a couple of upgrades to that corner over there to go along with all the bright blue Armco, as they've got bright blue styrofoam blocks that they stack up at that corner now to save some of the cars coming off that.
Andre Saunders here wants to make passes. He's trying everything. He's taking different lines, trying to poke around Whitworth, making Whitworth think about him back there. Whitworth, of course, a veteran of these things. He doesn't fall for those tactics easily. But I tell you, Saunders is trying it all right now. Whole kitchen sink and everything, trying to get around these D2D racers. And, you know, big teammates always say, you know, there's no real team orders, but if your teammate can help you, guaranteed that help's going to come.
Sure.
These things just race so well, side by side all the time. Look at that, 3 of them within a half a second. Racing at its best.
And here we go, moving to the inside, and he moves out again, and I think just to let Eric Violet, or probably Brandon Whitworth, know that he's there. Not quite close enough to affect the move, and you know, I guess also Larry, you know, as soon as you step out of that draft,
yep,
you just hit that wall of air.
And Whitworth looking pretty racy, got a great run off of one himself, and he might want to be making a move down the inside going to the bus stop, or he's going to have to go around the outside, because I don't think
and you could see there our leader, Eric Violet, I think he knew the move was coming and put the car right down the inside, coming out of the S's over driver's right to hold off his teammate there as they made the run down there towards the bus stop.
He was going to have none of that, so he was going to make sure that if someone's going to go around him, they're going to have to go the long way to come into that bus stop. He was going to make sure he had that inside line. A little wide there for Whitworth, kind of leaving a chance maybe for Saunders to get a better run going down towards the boot section here. Not quite enough, but he's definitely filling mirrors at this point for Saunders. Got a good run. I don't know if he's going to make this work. He's got a great run, though.
Yeah, and he's been, you know, it just seems as though Violet just hasn't had the pace of the two cars back behind him. But you know, again, it's a pretty easy course, I think, for the most part, to be defensive here, just because of the driving dynamics of these TCR cars. It's just so hard to actually make your way around.
You've got to
these
work
long sweeping
very
corners.
hard. You're talking multiple corner moves to try and make these passes. Things like forcing somebody to get defensive going into one gets them off their line, gives you a better run down to the bus stop, or going in through that toe and heel section of the boot. Again, if somebody just slips a little bit, you've got to be the better driver and kind of force the issue. So what you see there is Whitworth was trying that on teammate Violet. Violet able to hold on to it, but those are the way you make passes around Watkins Glen. You've got to really kind of veteran finesse your way around. Fill mirrors, make people take odd lines. Kind of what we're seeing Hernan now in the recovery mode to get around this run. Hernan, of course, had the first lap almost incident there with Travis Schwenke. He's able to recover pretty well now.
Yeah, as he found himself going through the uphill S's backwards, and now he made his way around Thorman, and now puts Ruddock back down into 8th. So Tony Kernan making his way up to 7th position as he tries to make his way back through the field. Decent distance to go to get to Jeff Jacobs, though, about 3 seconds up the line here.
We flash back to the TCRs again, and it looks like Whitworth just all over the back of Violet. Quick coming out of the bus stop. Tough to make a pass there, though, unless they really screw up the exit of the bus stop, as which we had seen Saunders do earlier, which gave Whitworth a chance to take second. But most of the time, it's tough to make that move. But he's definitely forcing. This is the kind of way you make passes around here. You jump to the outside, force your competitor down the inside, you get a better run off the exit and get him to the next corner down the line. But Violet's doing a great job of driving a wide car right now, as we're going to go inside the nose of Whitworth here down the sole of the boot.
Oh, and Whitworth has the rear end of the car jump out on him just a little bit. He's able to gather things back up, though, and looks like he'll be able to hold on to the position.
Line, though. You're Whitworth. You had an opportunity, but if there's one place you can get away with a bad exit, it's probably going to be turn 8.
Yeah,
because 9
you head up the hill.
As you know, 9 is the most treacherous corner in this entire track. It's slow, brutal apex curbing, and it just goes a little off camber as you get about 1 car width away from that exit, and your grip just goes away. So as you've seen there, Whitworth wasn't able to make any kind of move stick because all Violet had to do was just hold the inside line. But he's off his game right now. Whitworth is hungry.
All right, as we jump back to the lead, and there is Elvis Rankin, and you know, at this point, as we saw Robert Hartley a little bit earlier go and knock the driver's side mirror off his door, coming through turn 11. Now our leader, Elvis Rankin, able to open up a substantial gap here, almost 3.5 seconds here as we make our way down onto the front straight to complete lap number 12.
So smooth. You see him coming around through turns 10 and 11. The car just a little bit of a flick, and it just glides through those corners. He's very much on his game right now, still running low 56s around this place. In the closest time out there to him, Mike Dam's running around a 57.0, but he's just, Elvis right now is just on top of his game. Hernan pulling away from Ruddock, really has his sights set on Jeff Jacobs up in front of him. Hernan gaining almost a full second on this, about a half a second, I should say, on this last lap. So he's definitely in striking zone, and at some point we'll be coming up to the pit window. It should be open now, and we'll see if anybody comes in for the early splash. Traffic doesn't seem to be much of an issue here today.
Yeah, and in GT4, as you mentioned, should definitely be within the window right now. We'd expect that the GT4 cars could probably get about 17 laps on their opening tank of gas if they went with a full tank. And so we're firmly within that window right now. And if they go and fill up now, they should be able to make their way to the end of the race.
So it's a matter of who decides to come in first. We check a replay here. Whitworth again trying to make the move on Violet, going now to the outside into the bus stop. And he forced him to go too wide to the bus stop. Never an easy task. He just squeaks ahead, forcing this issue. But that's how you make passes around here. You got to force it.
Yeah, and you got to play chicken with the teammate there, and who's going to get on the brakes later and harder, and take the little bit later turn into the bus stop, and he gets it done. So now move the number 42 of Brandon Whitworth in the D2D racing machine.
He's not the only one making a move. Look at trying to come down the inside. Saunders. Yeah. But just a little bit of draft there for Violet allows him to stay close to Whitworth, and Saunders not able to get by. But Saunders, again, trying to make moves, maybe thinking that there's the injured gazelle in front of him, perhaps, maybe worthy of pouncing on. As Violet's a little bit off of his pace right now. Already losing a little bit of ground to Whitworth.
Yeah, just a little bit. Whitworth opens things up about a half a car length there as they make their way into the toe and up the hill. And, you know, one of the thing here, Larry, is with a lot of these corners, and you see Saunders moving to the inside, and he obviously is nowhere near close enough to attempt to pass at that point on Violet. But, you know, with a lot of the corners here where you have, and it's kind of hard to see on the flat screen here, but the elevation changes are pretty substantial in a lot of the corners here. Certainly going down the hill towards the toe of the boot, it drops down quite a bit, but as you come up through the toe and up towards the heel, the track continues to rise up on you. And here you can see where it just drops away.
Sure. Yeah, exactly as you're saying it. Here they are plummeting down through this turn 6 down to turn 7. And look at Kernan on this recovery drive. Didn't take it long to get caught up to and around Jeff Jacobs. So Kernan back up to 6th. I tell you, he's still got about 12 seconds to David Payton in front of him, but I would not count him out with half this race still to go. Kernan has got some tremendous pace right now.
No, right now in that last lap, Kernan ran his fastest lap of the race at a 1:56.38. That was more than a second faster than David Payton. Payton has run a similar pace here so far, but last time by, it's about a second off of what Kernan is currently running.
In fact, the only other car on track running anywhere near those times is Elvis Rankin, your leader. So Kernan just really, maybe it's the busted mirror has got him an aero advantage or something. But no, he's putting in some great laps for Kernan, but Rankin is just putting in qualifying laps at this point, just running 56s, just repeating them one after another with no draft in front of him either. You can see there on the graphic, pulling away a couple of tenths, as much as 8 tenths per lap over the last 5 laps between Rankin and Hartley. And Hartley's no slouch around this place. I've raced against Hartley around here in a couple of different things, Miatas namely, and he's always quick. So to see Elvis putting 4 to 8 tenths on him per lap says a lot about the pace that Elvis Rankin came with here tonight.
All right, let's jump back to the battle for the lead in TCR, where we have Brandon Whitworth in the 42 D2D racing machine, and he has opened up a bit of a gap over Eric Violet and Andre Saunders as we go on board with Saunders in the 72 machine. And we've seen this, Larry, pretty much since the beginning, where he will poke the nose out through a good deal of corners here. Oh, and is he going to try to make the move going into the final corner? No, he gets back in line.
I wonder if he's going to try and be the undercut here at some point. Maybe he just bides time a little bit. But the pace he's showing, and I know it's helped a little bit with draft, but he's showing a pretty strong pace. It really would not surprise me at all to see him come in for the early stop and see if he can get around these D2D racing teammates.
All right, it looks like in TCR, Scott Brooks, who's currently pulling up the tail of the field there in that gray number 94 machine. He comes down the pit lane to take his fuel stop. We'll see if he takes tires as well.
Most of these guys probably take the front tires. These fronts on this car just take a beating.
Yeah, and I was wondering whether or not if Violet had managed to stay in the lead, whether or not he would take front tires, but it might not be a bad idea now for all 3 of our cars up at the front of the field. given that they've been swapping. Each one of them has been sitting as the tail gunner for at least a period of time.
Thorman on his own recovery drive after having his issues going down to turn 1. Just as Russ Ruddock peels off to take his pit stop, and there's, of course, Tony Kernan and Jeff Jacobs, as you can see, coming down pit lane, also in for their stop, right about the midway point of the race for these guys. So as we did see,
looks
Robert
like Hartley is in as well.
Yeah, he's the of the front leaders. He's the first one in. Yet TCRs have not yet, and Elvis Rankin probably going to run until he's dry and come on out, because this helps Rankin when the guys behind him stop, because they don't have to worry about being in their wake, so to speak, and trying to make passes around them. He can just get clean track at this point. He's got no one. I mean, there's nobody even within a half a mile of him.
Yep, and Hartley just comes out of the pit lanes. He's going to be running through turn, coming through the pit entry, going down into turn 3. So it looks like Rankin going to have a lot of time on track to himself.
Absolutely.
All right, Larry,
yep.
As we're getting to the top of the hour here, why don't we take a quick break to thank our great sponsors, and we'll rejoin the action in just a few moments here. You're watching the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics, live from Watkins Glen International. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen, the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, and as we were just seeing, the pits were a busy place here for the last couple of minutes, and one of those that came in and out was Elvis Rankin, your leader. He has resumed the lead as he's come back out ahead. You can see they're about 6.5 seconds ahead of Robert Hartley, as Mike Dam also able to pit. I don't believe that Randall McGrew, actually McGrew is reported to have pit, so Mike Dam losing a little bit of ground there in the pits, but still gaining on Hartley and the pack. But at this point, the only ones that haven't pit are the TCRs out there, so we'll keep our eyes on those guys, as here they are now coming down this front stretch, as it looks like Violet and Whitworth leading those two, has put a little bit of ground now between themselves and Andre Saunders. Saunders lost a couple of seconds there in the mix over the last couple laps, but these two D2D iRacing guys, they will continue to push. So for Saunders, who was your pole sitter, he's going to have to put in a couple of good laps and then perhaps get in for the pits. I mentioned earlier that maybe a strategy for him might be to take that early stop. Now might be that time to catch a quick replay of Saunders now as they go into the bus stop. You can see he goes in, catches a little bit of that apex grass, and has to run it straight out.
Yeah, and Larry, it looks
ditch.
almost like a replay of when he went off earlier at the bus stop. Almost the exact same move, turned in a little bit early. Car washed out through the first left-hand portion of the bus stop, and he went through the grass. And yeah, might not be a bad idea for him to get to the pit lane now and try to undercut these drivers as they continue on and run fuel down.
Yeah, perfect time right now for Saunders. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't do it on that lap where he had that run wide. But right now he's losing a little bit of ground. Why not come in, get the fresh tires right now, and hope these two guys in front start battling each other to slow themselves down. But sitting out there by himself now, there's no advantage to not stop.
Yeah, and Larry, if he does decide to take those front tires, I think that's probably going to force our two drivers here in the two D2D iRacing machines of Whitworth and Violet to most likely do the same. During practice this week here at the Glen, what they found was that in most cases, towards the end of those 60-minute runs, if the drivers stayed out on those on the original front set of tires, typically what would end up happening is they would end up losing a lot of pace towards the end of the race to the drivers that had the new front tires. So we'll see if they think that advantage that they have. And look at this, Saunders stays out on track. Whether or not if Saunders does take the set of new front tires, whether or not our two teammates have enough of an advantage to hold them off towards the end.
They're definitely inching away a little bit, though. All of them running pretty quick, similar lap times, but this watch that 2.5 second gap. See if they can that he's down from Whitworth. See if he can gain in some of that back here before the pit exchange. He's got to just go out there and run qualifying tight pace and not miss a single breaking point, apex, or exit. He's got to really put his head down and try to get back in the mix, and then hopefully he can work his way around, which is not an easy task here around Watkins Glen. But speaking of having to get around, as you see, Mike Dam, who was in third before the pit exchange, loses out just to one spot to Randall McGrew, and McGrew is not going to make it easy on him to get on by.
No, certainly not. And McGrew has taken his pit stop as well. So getting the undercut there, and and McGrew was quite distance back. If we take a look at the pit length times here, not a tremendous difference, but Dam in the pit lane for 2 seconds longer than Randall McGrew, and obviously that's all he needed.
Yeah, and that's exactly all it takes to make a quick jump. And if you're Mike Dam, it just slows you down for a couple laps. So you try to work your way around him. But if you think you've got a shot to take Hartley down for second, you're going to have to get around McGrew, which looks like he's able to do now, just coming around one now up the S's. But it took him about a whole lap or so to make that pass.
Yeah, it doesn't come quickly at this end. At this point, as we look through the field, the only 3 drivers, Larry, that have not pitted are our 3 leaders in TCR, Violet, Whitworth, and Saunders. And so time definitely starting to tick away for them. But, again, we're just a bit under halfway through the 60-minute race, about 25 minutes remaining, a little bit less than 25 minutes.
Nope, still they're going to stay out. This is interesting. But you look at Saunders, he's definitely taken some time out there. As again, I'm looking at his lap times. He does a 2:01.2 to Violet's 2:01.2. So those two are running at the same quick pace, but it's been Whitworth to slow down a little bit. So, but on the overall, Saunders chipping away just enough. Keeps us up. He'll be in the mix at the closing point of this race. As over the GT4s, I'm just kind of keeping an eye also on the gap between now Mike Dam in third and his teammate Robert Hartley. Dam 2/10 quicker on their last laps, but he's going to have to do a lot more than 2/10 if in the next 23 minutes he's going to find 4 seconds.
And as we go to that view right now coming into turn 10, and you can see that that right now Mike Dam sitting about 15-20 car lengths back from his teammate.
Well, that helped a little bit. Now we'll see how it impacts Mike Dam, but Hartley had to wait a couple of corners to get around Scott Brooks in that TCR, which allowed about a 1.5 second gain there for Mike Dam on Hartley. We'll see now if that same disadvantage strikes Mike Dam, but that's the deal with lapping multi-class racing. It's really just a complete luck of the draw when you catch that slow car and how quickly you can get on by them. In this track, if you catch one of those TCRs in turn 9, you are stuck behind them probably all the way through turn 11.
All the way until you get onto the front straight. Yeah. Exactly.
That's one of the worst spots to catch because the TCRs at points are relatively quick. They've got decent grip. They accelerate pretty well for the first couple of gears coming off the corners. So if you're in those short straightaways, it's tough to make the pass. You got to get to the long runs for these GT4s to get on by.
All right, we jump back over as Chris Thorman tries to make his way back through the field. And, hey, look at that, right behind Jacobs. And he's having a little trouble getting by. We'll see how long he has to spend behind that white spoiler, that white Cayman, as they come now down into the bus stop. And it looks like Andre Saunders now, Larry, has gone into the pit lane for his pit stop.
Now we're going to keep our eyes on him. Assume he will take front tires. We'll see if he takes the right amount of fuel, because there is definitely a wrong amount, swinging either way, low or high. So for Saunders, we'll keep our eye to see, does he take any tires? Oh, he's backing up. That's not a good sign.
That's
Missed his
not
pit
good.
box. That's going to cost you usually at least 2, maybe 3 seconds while you fumble around for gears to get it into the right spot. I know because I've done it. I don't see the car going in the air, though, so you might be trying this as just splash without tires and try to undercut these guys. Maybe that was a late decision as well to not take the tires, knowing you just missed your pit box. You may have lost that opportunity to optimize your pit stop. But now we'll see if Violet and Whitworth can react and respond and come in right away, or if they just keep running their race and not worried about it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think that most likely he did not take the tires, Larry. If we judge now as Saunders heads out back onto the track, only spent about 51, 52 seconds on the pit lane. All told, that was about 8 seconds less than Scott Brooks, who is our only other measuring stick that we have in the pit stall itself. About 6 seconds less. So it looks like probably Brooks took tires and Saunders did not.
And for Saunders, that's gambling that there'll be enough tire left at the end of the race and he can hold off a charge, hoping that these guys now in front of him do take tires and put themselves in that position. So between these two, though, I'll be fascinated to see if one takes and the other doesn't the tires and how that pace plays out towards the end of the race. Because clearly you take front tires, your pace is going to be a second and a half a lap faster come the closing stages. But will it be enough?
Yeah, will it be enough? And if you take the tires too early, will be an advantage at the end. All right, and both drivers are coming down the pit lane together. So both Eric Violet and Brandon Whitworth, the 89 and the 42 D2D iRacing machines, come down the pit lane.
See who's crew chief gives them the right information for the right amount of fuel and the best decision of whether or not to take any tires. We are going to watch them come in, of course, back to back in their pit stalls. Backing up for Whitworth. That's not good for Whitworth, doing the same thing that we saw Saunders do just a lap or so ago. That's good for Saunders. He doesn't know it, but that's good for him. As look at Violet, in, out, huge gap he's going to put on the teammate here. And you just see coming down the straightaway, there is, that's Saunders now coming down the front straight.
Yeah, it's going to be close, Larry. And I'll tell you, he was in the pit stall for 6 seconds less than Andre Saunders.
Wow, that's super fast pit stops there.
And there you go. He's out on track, and he's got about maybe a 5 or 6 second advantage over Saunders as the pit cycles have completed for our top 3 cars.
And you're right, Saunders losing out about 4.5 seconds just to Whitworth, in addition to the 2 seconds or 3 seconds or so that Violet put on him. So huge deficit there for Saunders now to try and make up. And it doesn't look like he's got much of a chance on tires unless he saves some, because nobody in this class decided to go with tires. So right now it's Violet's race to win. He's got to just go down there, head down, turn mirrors down, and just go drive. And he's done a lot of this year, pulling away in the late stages. As we noted earlier, he did win the last round at Mid-Ohio. He won the previous round at Sonoma. He won the previous round on the streets of Belle Isle. Other than that, he's got a couple of podiums at Barber and Canadian Tire Mosport, and he won our opening round at Sebring. So for Violet, worst position he's been in all year is third. He's got a whole closet full of first place trophies to go with it. So he's got about 18 minutes to try and get another one here. Elvis Rankin's another one coming in with 4 wins in 6 rounds, trying to cement the championship here. You weren't with us last week. He also cemented his championship in the Classic Sprint Series in those MX-5 Cup cars. So for Elvis, trying to make it, winning multiple championships in the same season. He's got this weekend here at Watkins Glen. He's still got one more round to go of the sports cars before he can claim title there, but he's inching closer to it if he can somehow manage to be on the top step here today and get win number 5 in this series. It would be a pretty tough achievement, but he's had such tremendous speed all year long.
Yeah, and it's not just a question of speed, Larry. It's also been quite a bit of strategy as well. He's really known, when he's known how to pace himself, I think, is probably the best thing. I mean, not all of the racing has been this wide open, and he hasn't been able to escape the field all that much. He's had some fairly close races where he's had to hold off other runners and has kind of known when to slip out of the lead and maybe drop back behind and do a little bit of drafting in order to make the fuel last a little bit longer. I think going back to Belle Isle comes to mind there, and and then frankly some of the drivers around him have had trouble keeping their cars on course, which has also given him a bit of an advantage. Probably the defining factor of this season so far for Elvis Rankin is just his consistency.
Yeah, you say some people would say, well, that's luck and your competitors take themselves out, but I say it the other way around. It's more to that consistency remark that it shows you he doesn't make the mistakes.
No.
He's just so consistent lap after lap, and it's not like he's consistent 2 seconds off the leader's pace. He is setting the leader's pace while being consistent up there, and it's not easy to do, to hit these marks over and over again. I tried to drive these GT4s. This came in this sim. I can't do it. I'm terrible at this car, because to me, it just doesn't have the feel for it. I can't be consistent. I can have an optimal lap that looks really good, but my actual laps are a second off of my optimals because I just can't be consistent. You watch Elvis Rankin, he is consistent. He's corner to corner, straightaway to straightaway, running the exact same marks, and it's really impressive to watch him do it without making that mistake that takes himself out. But Dam's got great pace. We saw him have that issue coming through the boot section earlier. One little mistake cost him quite a bit of time, and he's 12 seconds down. Without that mistake, he might be right now fighting for this lead with Elvis. In fact, he's right now, it looks like Mike Dam is the quickest car on the track, running in the mid 56s, just a couple tenths slower than Elvis Rankin, or faster than Elvis Rankin. But Mike Dam really putting in great pace. The problem is that one mistake that he had just cost him 6 or 7 seconds, and then it looked like his pits probably were a hair slow. So with Elvis, you just don't see those things. And
right.
If Mike Dam can eliminate some of these, he can be there in the end.
So instead, what do you do? He finds himself having to make up ground to his teammate to try to get up one more step on the podium. Again, as you mentioned, it's clear he has the pace. It's just stringing together an entire 60 or 75-minute race, which seems to elude him from time to time. There he's Saunders. Let's Mike Dam go by.
Dam's trying to, as you mentioned, catch that teammate. He's definitely getting closer. He was about 3 seconds before. Now he's inside that 3-second gap to Robert Hartley, down to close to 2 seconds.
2 seconds,
two of them,
yeah.
You can see them in the same shot there, coming up to the toe of the boot.
And there you go. If you look on screen, you can see the comparison in lap times over the last 5 laps, and for the most part,
2 seconds.
Dam got held up just a little bit as he was behind Saunders there, but for the most part, he's making up a lot of ground each and every lap.
Well, to put this, if he keeps his pace up, he took out 2 seconds over the course of 5 laps. With 13 minutes left in this race, we've got somewhere around, we'll call it 7 laps to go. So the last 2 laps, he could be on his gearbox trying to make that pass for the second spot on that podium. So Mike Dam really putting in good laps right now, and he can smell the back of that McLaren in front of him, his teammates, and try to make a move near the end. And I'm sure if you're Hartley, you're not going to make it easy by any means.
No, of course not.
You're hoping if you're Hartley, you can get by in a lap traffic faster than Dam, and vice versa if you're Mike Dam. And sometimes that's what it takes when it's going to come down to the last lap or two. If you can just get by a lap car faster, you can make up ground, or you can pull away a little bit in those closing stages.
And I've been watching, Larry, just as we see our 2 McLarens head up through the S's here. Robert Hartley seems to have a lot of trouble on exit of the 90, turn 1. Here at Watkins Glen, and he's always having to rip that car back over as he runs. You mentioned the Miata line going through the 90, where you basically use every last inch of the runoff on the outside there that they added to Watkins Glen about 10 years ago. It used to be gravel over there, and he is constantly running out of pavement there, and has a close encounter with the Armco almost every single lap that he has to rip the car back over, and he's definitely losing ground. As I'll tell you right now, you can see coming down through the chute, he's losing a lot of ground to his teammate Mike Dam.
This is that section I talked about earlier, where the TCRs are relatively quick through these medium corners and coming off the corner. Yeah. But if you don't get on their gearbox like this, now he's finally able to make this jump. But a couple corners there, he was too far back, and he just couldn't get by. Now Mike Dam, as you can see, he's within draft distance behind Hartley, and Mike Dam needs to just dispose of Whitworth here very quickly, and then he'll have himself about 10 minutes to get up to that second step of the podium and get around his teammate.
And judging by the gap here, if he can close him just a little bit, he might have this time perfectly to get by him on the front straight. and not lose a ton of ground to Hartley here on the exchange.
He's caught him a little bit too early. See, you mentioned earlier, same thing had happened where you catch somebody through 9, and then you're stuck with them until you get to the front straightaway. It's exactly what happened. So where he was 1 second back, now you can see on the ticker only 2 seconds between Hartley and Mike Dam.
Yeah, but you can see here, Dam now coming up on our TCR leader, Brandon Whitworth, and probably Eric Violet, sorry, in the 89 machine, and might be in that position one more time to allow things to close back down. And Larry, while we've got the drivers here making their way up through the S's and over to the bus stop, I wanted to remind everybody, if you like what you're seeing today here, please give us a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to the Apex Racing TV channel and click that notification bell so you can find out about all the great motorsports virtual racing events that we have for you here pretty much around the clock, seemingly, here on Apex Racing TV. And of course, if you want to find out more, you can subscribe to all of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Just search for Apex Racing TV.
Yeah, let's remind our viewers that Monday nights, Ricmotech is not the only series that Apex Racing broadcasts. It's all over. I know our administrators at Ricmotech are saying, what do you mean? We're the center of the universe. But the Apex Racing TV brings you racing all the time, lots of varieties. There's Apex Racing League's own operated series, to keep your eyes on those. But here in the Ricmotech world, it's every Monday night. We go live about 8 p.m. Eastern. And this is the kind of racing. So if you like what you're seeing, not only click like, tell your friends to jump on and watch, because this really is one of the highest standards of racing of leagues that I have seen, and it's a great, as you see every week, it's a great spectacle to watch. And if you're really interested, contact the administrators, and maybe you can jump in if you've got an iRacing account and join the fun. As you can see, definitely open spots here between GT4 and the TCRs, as well as there's other series that Ricmotech has in the alternating Monday nights. And coming up at the end of the season, there'll be a new season starting here late in June. And I'm looking forward to hopefully another season next year. We'll see how that goes. But it's been nothing but entertaining the entire year here in season, what are we, 18 now?
18, I believe, Larry.
And you get finishes like this, where Mike Dam is doing everything he can to catch Hartley, and Hartley's doing everything he can to fend him off with just a little over 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, time is definitely a ticking here, and looks like a lot of the traffic that Hartley encountered, a lot of that TCR traffic, Mike Dam encountered as well. Neither driver had a real advantage there, making their way through, and you can see they both now have a decent amount of open track as they found their way around the TCR leaders.
The other one I'm just kind of watching, though, is still in the TCRs. Whitworth took about a half a second out of the advantage of Eric Violet the last time by. Might be enough time left for him to continue that, especially as Violet now has to kind of yield to let another one of these GT4s go by. So if you're Whitworth, your race is not over yet. You're 2 seconds back. And I think if he can make a little ground in the next 2 laps, he could be within draft zone and make a run at this before it's all over.
Yeah, we'll have to see what McGrew can do, and it looks like Violet's going to pull over drivers left. Actually, not pulling over. That was actually the racing line there. But McGrew makes his way through without causing Violet to lose all that much time, and it is now about 1 3/4 seconds separating our two D2D E-Racing drivers here as they come down. And
the gap from Violet to Whitworth is about the same as the gap from Hartley to Dam. One of them for the second step of the podium, the other battle for the top step of the TCR podium. It's gonna be close. I think both these battles could come down to the last lap. I think we're going to see nose to tail here very shortly in both these classes.
Yeah, now remember 3 weeks ago at the Mid-Ohio Sportscar course, Eric Violet took the win. Brandon Whitworth finished in second position, I believe. Let me make sure I got that right. No, I'm sorry. Did I just say that? Yeah, he finished fourth. I'm sorry.
It was Andre Saunders.
Saunders finished on the second step of the podium, and Brooks, who had that early trouble in his Brooks Racing machine, finished on the last step of the podium.
There is Mr. Brooks right now coming down through turn 10.
Yeah, and you can see there he's about 20, almost 30 seconds off of our leader in the field. Let's jump back, coming out of the bus stop here, and definitely starting to close things down there. Mike Dam now knocks another quarter of a second off of Hartley's times, and now just about a second and a half back. But as we've been saying, Larry, clock's a ticking here as we have just about 5 minutes remaining here in this 60-minute sprint.
Yeah, depending on where Elvis Rankin crosses the stripe, if he's still leading at the time, it could be 3 laps. I don't know. It could even be a 4th lap.
4th, maybe.
And if you're Mike Dam, you're hoping for that bigger number. You want as many chances as you get, especially as you made the observation earlier about Hartley maybe struggling on turn 1 just a little bit. And for Mike Dam, we had seen earlier how great a run he was getting when he was following Elvis Rankin in the early stages of the race. Those two might be things playing into Mike Dam's hands as we get into the closing stage here. Just now about 1.6 behind his teammate Hartley.
Yeah, and if you look in your upper right-hand corner, you can see the track map there. As best we can tell, as both Hartley and Dam are making their way through turn 11 right now, our leader is just now going down the front straight. So
should be 3 laps, I think.
Yeah.
As we've got just about 5 minutes, he should come across the stripe in about 1 minute to go and take that 3rd lap. So 3 laps, 3 more times through turn 1 if you're Mike Dam and Robert Hartley for that 2nd step on the podium. And the same for Violet and Whitworth. Somewhere back behind them as Whitworth now has got the gap down to 1.3 seconds. He can almost sniff some draft there. But between these two, good run there off the line there for Hartley to hold them off. But you can see how close Whitworth is making this.
Yeah, he's definitely closing things in here.
Did not get a great run off
but
of
as we saw, Larry, with these Audi RS3 LMSs, getting up into some of these drafts seemingly easy, and I'm not going to say this is easy. He's got a long way to go, but trying to find a way to get your car around is exceedingly difficult. The way these cars are built, the way they use aero downforce, and
I'll tell you what's going to make it interesting though is as we watch them all pit. No one took tires, and 60 minutes on the front tires of one of these TCR Audi RS3s is definitely going to be putting a lot of wear. There's not going to be a whole lot of rubber left on those tires. No. So to me, it's whoever saved a little bit or who's ever really good in those icy, slick conditions is probably going to be the one that comes out between these two. He's close. He just
he can smell it.
By the time they come around, there's only going to be 2 laps to go, which is not a lot of time. If you're Whitworth, you would have liked to have been on his tail by this point of the race. And now, of course, he's going to have one of our GT4s coming up behind him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Larry,
that Chris Thorman.
As we have Thorman coming up back behind him, if he's going to just sit back or if he's going to inject himself in the middle of this race. He may not see it as much of a race here, given the gap between those two cars.
The other DTD Racing GT4 Carrera, but the Cayman.
Cayman.
But he's going to make a move here, and if you're Whitworth, you just don't want to pull over. You don't want to give any advantage. This is where you're going to stand your ground and saying the overtaking car has the burden to make the pass. It really does not want to give anything up. 1-4, but if they've got 2 laps to go, don't know if he's going to be able to get this guy. It's going to be really close with just...
Yeah.
If anything, maybe he'll get a little bit of a push.
I was just going to say the Cayman slash Audi bump draft there all the way down the back straight, maybe.
He would love that.
Yes.
If nothing else, Cayman goes by him, and maybe he can sort of draft behind him for a couple of corners.
And I think that's what he's going to allow to have happen here. Let's see if he jumps back over to try and catch that draft.
He's going to stick with him as long as he can and hope that maybe Peyton can make this difficult for your leader, Violet, when he gets there. Whitworth is trying to stick to the back of that Cayman as much as he can through every one of these little short shoots. He's got it down to 1.3 seconds to Violet. They're only going to have about 1.5 laps to go at this point. Our eye on Whitworth again, trying to stay in that draft. Look at him, he's down to 1.2. He'll be at 1.1. Any bit of slowdown that Violet's got to do to give this spot up with a faster GT4 car is going to play right into Whitworth's hands. Oh, it's going to be so close. They're only going to have one lap to do it, as Elvis Rankin should now be out there on the white flag lap. So you can see Elvis. I think that should be him going.
He should be
through
coming onto
S's.
the. Yep, he's coming down the back straight now, and he should be on the white flag lap with just about 30 seconds remaining on the clock. So this should be the last lap.
As this lead now in TCRs is down to just over 1 second. Don't know if it's going to be enough for Whitworth, as Violet now is going to get a great tow going up the S's and down the back straight. If you're Whitworth, it might just be too little too late for you. But for Elvis Rankin now, as he's making his way down towards the toe of the boot, just a couple corners left for another one of his victories. This would be 5 victories in 7 rounds for Elvis Rankin. Just dominance this season here in this Porsche Cayman. Absolutely dominant. And it's really, that's the only words I can think of to describe what he's doing.
Yeah,
this is just
with a 15-second advantage right now over the rest of the field. Yeah, absolutely dominant here at Watkins Glen International, as Elvis Rankin now only has 3 more corners before he takes the checkered flag.
And he's still running 56.6s out here. His quickest lap of the race was a 55.6, so he's only 1 second off of his overall quickest, and he's on 1 hour old tires. So for Rankin, just amazing consistency, start to finish, led every single lap on his way to yet another victory.
And here he comes onto the front straight and crosses the start-finish line here to take the win. Elvis Rankin wins round number 7 of the GT4 Championship in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series from Watkins Glen. Crossing the line second is going to be Robert Hartley, with his teammate Mike Dam coming in third, rounding out the podium. And Randall McGrew, after we said it, McGrew a little aggressive usually early on, and had a little coming together on the very first lap. He brings his car home in 4th, making up 1 position. David Payton will finish in 5th. And here, let's go over to our TCR battle. And coming right up to the back of our leader, Eric Violet, is Brandon Whitworth, but taking the win. And it is now his 5th win out of 7 rounds. Eric Violet in the number 89 D2D iRacing machine takes the win. His teammate Brandon Whitworth will finish 2nd. Andre Saunders, our pole sitter today, will bring his car home now in 3rd.
Yeah, for Violet, it was about execution of his pit stop, where his competitors had struggled. Violet did not, and he's the one that hangs on for that victory. So, well-executed race for Eric Violet, yet another win for him on closing in on a championship in TCR.
All right, and as our drivers complete their cool-down laps, we're going to have interviews in just a moment, but let's take another quick break here to thank our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a few moments with those interviews. You are watching the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, round number 7 from Watkins Glen, presented by Performa Elite Texas Graphics. We'll be right back.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
All right, and we're back here at Watkins Glen International. We've just wrapped up the 60-minute sprint race from the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, round number 7. And there you can see him coming onto the front straight, our 2 winners. Elvis Rankin, our GT4 winner in his Apex Racing Team Porsche Cayman, and then we've got Eric Violet in the D2D iRacing Porsche, pardon me, not Porsche, Audi RS3 LMS, and we should have some of our drivers here for interviews in just a minute. But Larry, once again, some great racing in both of our classes, and we opened it up saying that that our two points leaders were really cementing their positions at the top of the order. And they've done so even with a big exclamation mark here at Watkins Glen.
They brought the big cement trucks here with them to Watkins Glen. Both of them able to take away wins. And for Whitworth, or excuse me, for Violet, not on the pole. He had to start, be patient behind a couple of guys there on the second row where he started, but able to get it done here in this race. Unbelievable for him. I'm just messing with Dennis Branch now. We're talking about the other class. But we'll just go through the race results there for Violet taking the win, just ahead of teammate Brandon Whitworth, who had strong pace, just had the little mistake there going to the pits for him. And it's going to cost him a little bit. Andre Saunders, your pole sitter, going to come home in third, with Scott Brooks still running there at the end, coming home in fourth. And Andrew List, maybe what could have been, should have been, as that penalty cost him this race. Start. So, unfortunately for him. And all right, and we did. We'll see if we can get.
Oh, hey, there we go. We've got our TCR winner, Eric Violet, coming into the green room. Let's bring him on in, Larry.
All right, we are here with your TCR winner, Eric Violet. Eric, congrats on the victory. Walk me through a little bit of that ups and downs sort of race for you.
Man, well, it started with a bad start. I think this is the first time we've had someone other than D2D on pole, and I think Andre just waited a little bit. He didn't have I wouldn't say necessarily a bad start, but I think Andrew was anticipating and got a good read and got a good jump and pulled out of line, and it's a big no-no here, and so it's unfortunate.
Little too good.
It's too bad. We could have had a four-way battle there probably. Andre was really fast. Andre in the beginning of the season wasn't like a huge competitor, and man, probably the last four races he's just been on fire. So he was making us sweat it out. I mean, Brandon's fast. He did what he was supposed to do, which is he was trying to burn up my tires. He's trying to stay out front. There was no team orders, I think there's only about 1 or 2 laps we actually worked together, and that was about it. Everything else was gloves off from the green, just trying to get position, because the aero push here is so bad it'll just burn your tires up. And if you're out front, you get don't have to take tires. You get a 10-second freebie there. But it was tough. I know it was a small field, but it was still it was a tight battle there.
Did you see Brandon in his pit stop right next to you there, missing his pit box? Did you realize that was going on?
Yeah, I think we came in, he came in right behind me. So as soon as I pitted, I hit my mark, and then I saw him go by, and then I saw him pop it in reverse. And went, it's going to cost him about 3 seconds. And sure enough, it did. Luckily, he didn't take tires and came out in front of Andre as well. I think if he would have taken tires, he would have been behind Andre on the exit. So I think not taking tires was the way to go for at least this race with the field we had.
Yeah, it seemed to be. Right at the end of the race, we were talking about that pace. Neither one of you had taken any tires, but coming down towards that finish, it got really close, trying to get some traffic let on by between you guys. I'm thinking one more lap, and he would have been there. But as it went, that lap didn't happen for him, and you were able to take home the checker there in the TCR. So win 5 in 7 rounds. Where's this putting you in this season? I mean, obviously I can see the points, but in terms, where's your confidence level going into now this season, and looking back, how's it felt for you so far?
It's been good. I mean, again, with a larger field, being in this position with a larger field would make me, beat my chest a little more. But it feels like big fish, a little pond right now. We got some good competition. I mean, Brandon, Andrew, and Andre, no slouches. Jim Allen, when he's here, I'm not sure if he's got real life stuff going on, but it's unfortunate because he always gives us a really good run for our money. So it's unfortunate he hasn't been here the last couple of races. Yeah, we need to get more people out here, and then it'll feel this position will feel a lot better. But as far as comfort for the championship, I think I got it locked up. So I think next race is going to be go out, have some fun, try to put another W next to in the win column. So
those are great goals to have, for sure.
That's a plan.
That's a great goal to have, and you may be really close as well, as you say, to locking it up. So it's exciting. It's been great to watch, and I think you've scared off a lot of people. I'm hoping not too much, because I'd love to see the TCRs be 12, 14 cars deep, as it's some of the best racing, and people may not realize it may only be 4 or 5 you out there racing, but you guys are at the top level of it. And I want to see some more people come out here, as you mentioned, people like Alan and some of the others that have been around. It's been great racing for you. So congrats on the victory. Anybody you want to thank this week?
Yeah, it shouldn't be anybody to be scared of, because we give a lot of help. I mean, we do DAP sessions. I put videos up every week for every race for everybody. So hopefully we can get more people in for next season. But anyway, I'll make this one short. If you guys do an interview for the championship, I'll do all the thanks and everything next time. So I'll just thank you guys. Thanks for having me tonight.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Congrats again.
All right, there you go. That is Eric Violet, today's winner in TCR and our current points leader as well. Let's now move, Larry, over to Brandon Whitworth, finishing his teammate and finishing second tonight in TCR.
All right, we've got Brandon Whitworth here, finished second in our TCR class. Brandon, it's one of those races, as these typically go, just tooth and nail all the way through, and then that pit stop. Walk me through that, and then your recovery at the end of the race to make it close.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at making the car go, but I'm not so good at making it stop, apparently.
We had seen that as you guys came in together, and all of a sudden we saw your car backing up, which is just never a good sign.
Yeah, no, I overshot it a little bit. So after that, I had a few seconds to make up, so I did everything I could to do it. I think I got everything I could out of the car.
Yeah, you had some great pace at the closing stages. There's some tremendous pace, and we were just telling Eric that I think had there been one more lap, it might have been a different outcome, as you were right on his tail there at the stripe. So tremendous pace. Just it's kind of how it's been this year. You know, the races are always close, and victories are never easy to come by here.
Yeah, it's more fun that way. If it was easy, you get bored.
It's not boring watching you guys, that's for sure. It's some of the most exciting races. So very, very cool. Teammates and all, gloves were off. A couple of times looked like you were going to stick your nose down the inside, and then eventually able to get on by. Is that part of the no team orders deal?
Yeah, pretty much. When I passed him the first time, I felt like I was a little bit faster, so I thought maybe he could draft off me and we would be a little quicker, but I really don't think I was. I think I was just running about the same pace, no matter what.
Yeah, it's tough to pull away from anybody out here. But second place, here in this series, people not always realizing how fast you guys are, and if they come out, they're going to get some stiff competition. But as Eric just said, bigger fields are good, and there's lots of help for folks that want to jump in. So,
yeah.
So, congrats on the podium finish tonight, and another round coming up in a couple of weeks, and looking forward to seeing you out there.
Yep, appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, that was Brandon Whitworth finishing second tonight in TCR. So, Larry, let's move over to our overall winner, Elvis Rankin, in the number 1 Apex Racing Team Porsche Cayman.
All right, we've got our overall winner tonight in the GT4 class, Elvis Rankin. And Elvis, from that start all the way through, just it was green to checker for you tonight. How did that feel for you? Because from the outside, it looked flawless.
Yeah, it definitely feels good. It's just keeping the consistency. The Macas are really good on the straight. Figured they'd be pretty good at this track, but I figured out a way to set my car up just a little bit better for the straight line so I could protect from them. And then I was hoping the mistakes would come, and eventually they did.
Yeah, we could see that, actually. We were talking about that, how clearly there was a bit of better straight line speed for the McLarens. And as long as you were holding that defensive line to the bus stop, you're able to just barely hold them off. And then you could see a little bit of inching away, even through the slow stuff, like through the boot sections. And but it was close for a while. It looked like Mike Dam was going to give you a run for your money there. Were you just hitting marks and trying not to look in your mirrors when he's back there?
Yeah, just keeping it nice, calm, and relaxed. Just trying to stay as calm as possible, stay relaxed. I think that's the main thing, and not worrying about him. And I just run my own race.
So I do have to ask, you guys came around for your cool down lap. Did you almost turn down pit lane, or were you just sort of messing with the guys there?
Nah, I was just messing with them.
A little bit of fun. It's all fun here. Everyone's competitors, but I think everybody's also real close with you guys. So it was always fun to watch.
Yeah, it's fun to do. It's fun to drive.
Yeah, so 5 wins in 7 rounds now for you. It's getting close to crowning another championship. How are you feeling about how's your confidence now going into this final round in a couple of weeks?
I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know about math or nothing. I'm not too good at math. I still need to study hard, so I don't know that fully. But I think it's I think I have it. I'm not sure though. But like I said, I'm just gonna come in the same mentality with Bro Atlanta. Just run my own race and just have fun with it.
And it's fun watching it as well, and it's just amazing to watch your consistency, just corner to corner and race to race. So, congrats on another victory tonight. And who'd you like to thank tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Want to thank Apex Racing Team, of course. Those guys for just supporting me. Congrats to the boys on winning the 500. Mega stonks on that. That was awesome to watch. 1, 2, 3 in the 500. It's a big achievement. So congrats to those guys, of course. And then of course the team sponsors, SDK, VRS, Apex Racing Academy, and Simputers. Thank you so much to those guys for supporting us and all of the stuff that we race. Want to thank my mom, dad, grandma, grandpa for just supporting me in on-track real racing and sim racing. And then, of course, Mark from HPP. Thank you to him. Been a big help to me. I want to thank, of course, Extreme 99, putting on this whole deal. Ricmotech, sponsoring the league. The admins, of course, Kevin, Jeff, Ryan, doing an amazing job as always. And then, one more race to go. And, my bad. I completely forgot about you guys at Apex Racing TV. I apologize about that.
Well, thank you.
It's definitely a good job for you guys to put on the broadcast.
We get the easy job. We just get to you're the one that makes it look easy, and we just have to sit here and watch the great skills out in front of us. So, congrats on another victory tonight. They're never easy, but you seem to make them look that way. And looking forward to seeing you, of course, now in 2 weeks for our next round of World Challenge.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Elvis.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, there was Elvis Rankin, our winner tonight in GT4 in the Apex Racing Team Porsche Cayman, picking up his 5th win this season in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series. And Larry, I think you kind of alluded to it, but let's take a look at our upcoming schedule here for our 3 different Ricmotech series. Next up on the docket, it's going to be 2 weeks from now. We're going to take a week off next week, and we're going to have the World Challenge for round number 7, heading off to Japan and Twin Ring Motegi. Then in 3 weeks, the Sports Car Series rounds out the season. It's our finale at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And then in just about a month, June 28th, the Classic Sprint Series starts off season number 19. I don't have a location for you yet, but when we find out, we will be there. So definitely come join us for our 3 different Ricmotech series. And of course, you can find out more about results. Also, upcoming schedules at extrememotorsports99.com. And of course, you can find out more about all the different Apex Racing TV programming by going to apexracingtv.com/schedule as well. For Larry McLeod, for Dennis Branch, for Alex Simpson, I am Greg Ginsberg, and we'll see you in just a few weeks from Twin Ring Motegi. Have a great evening.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.